Bloom's taxonomy is a widely used framework that helps educators design effective curriculum and assessments. For students, it clarifies what is expected at each stage of knowledge mastery. Bloom's taxonomy consists of 6 cognitive levels. Each level builds on the one before it, forming a hierarchy of thinking skills. Here's a closer look at each stage using the revised version of the taxonomy. Remembering. At this level, you're expected to remember information you've already learned. Think of this stage as memorization. It includes recognizing terms, recalling definitions, listing facts. Understanding. Now that you're not just remembering, you can explain ideas or concepts. This shows a deeper level of comprehension. Summarizing material, describing processes, interpreting charts or graphs. Applying. Application involves using your learning in new and concrete situations. You need to demonstrate how to use information, formulas, or rules without guidance. Problem solving. Executing procedures, applying theories to practical tasks. Analyzing. At this level, you're asked to examine information and find structure. You break content apart to understand how it's organized. Comparing and contrasting, identifying causes and effects, finding patterns. Evaluating. This stage requires you to make decisions. You assess the value of ideas or solutions using clear criteria, debating viewpoints, critiquing outcomes, judging based on standards. Creating. The highest order of thinking is creation. You generate new ideas or products by combining different elements in innovative ways. Designing a project or plan, constructing models, inventing a process or idea. Now let's look at how we're going to use these in our course. In your assignments, you will have remembering questions. These questions will begin with verbs like list, identify, define, name, label, match. These questions look for a simple, straightforward answer, one sentence. Examples of some questions list the colors of the rainbow. The colors of the rainbow are red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. Another example, identify the capital of Peru. The capital of Peru is Lima. Last one, define ecology. Ecology is the study of how living things interact with each other and their environment. So these were examples of remembering questions. Each begins with a remembering verb and requires an answer that is simple, straightforward, just one sentence. Here's an example of a remembering question that asks you to label a diagram. Simply provide the appropriate labels for the diagram. On the right, you see a matching question. For matching questions, match each term with the appropriate definition. Understanding questions require a concise answer in paragraph form, 2 to 3 sentences. They begin with words like describe, summarize, order. For example, describe osmosis. Osmosis is the movement of water along a concentration gradient. Water flows from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration. No energy is required. A second example, describe a gene. A gene is a unit of heredity. They are passed from parent to offspring. Many genes together make up a genome. These are 2 examples of good answers to understanding questions, a concise answer in paragraph form that is 2 to 3 sentences long. For apply questions, these begin with verbs like discuss, illustrate, demonstrate, determine, interpret, calculate. These require a concise answer in paragraph form, 3 to 4 sentences. For example, discuss prokaryotes. Prokaryotes are single-celled organisms. Prokaryotes have a simple structure. They do not have a defined nucleus or organelles. They can be archaea or bacteria. That's a simple, straightforward answer concise to an apply question. The next one here, discuss proteins and their function. Proteins are biological molecules that are essential to life. They have various important functions in the body. Some proteins are enzymes. Others act as carriers or assist in transport across the cell membrane. 3 to 4 sentences, very concise. This is an appropriate answer to an apply question. Analyze questions. These begin with verbs like explain, analyze, compare and contrast, evaluate, organize. These questions need a concise answer, 2 to 3 paragraphs, each paragraph 3 to 4 sentences. So these are a bit longer. You can see an example down here at the bottom of what an appropriate answer to an explain question would look like. You would have 2 to 3 paragraphs. Each paragraph would contain 3 to 4 sentences. An evaluate question would begin with verbs like summarize, evaluate, justify, argue. These are short essay questions or possibly a presentation, and they may be 1 to 2 pages long. For create questions, the verbs there would be create, develop, design, plan, propose, hypothesize, support. These would be an essay or a presentation. It would be more than 2 pages, would be the expectation for a create type question. Here we have an example of different verbs for each category. So you have a few listed here that might be used for remembering questions, understanding questions, apply questions, analyze, evaluate, and create. So when you open up your assignments, have a look at the verbs that each question begins with, and that will give you an idea of how much information you need to provide in your answer. The least amount would be according to what you've seen here in this presentation. So for a remembering question, 1 good sentence, unless it's a labeling or a matching, and then just for understanding, you're looking for 2 to 3 sentences. For apply, 3 to 4 sentences. For analyze, you would want 2 to 3 paragraphs, 3 to 4 sentences each. And then for evaluate and create, those would be a little bit longer assignments, and they would have specific instructions. See those expectations right at the side of the question. So it might be a good idea here to take a picture of this chart so that you can have it on hand. That way you know, have it for reference, what the expectations are for getting your questions answered.